Hello fellow crafters, and welcome to just something I want to do randomly. I'm doing a blind drift build. Basically, the way it works is I have to close my eyes and I just randomly wiggle about which one of these cars, I just wiggle about all these cars, and whatever car I land on, I have to use. So I have my eyes closed right now. Let's just see what are we going to land on. Alright, I'm gonna open them right now. I have to use a Charger Daytona Hemi. This is gonna make a very, very interesting drift build. I can already assure you of that fact. Alright, you guys know me. I don't know too much about drift builds, but what I do know is that this one's still gonna be very interesting. I have no idea how this is gonna go. We're gonna install all these things, and there we go. Let's go ahead and get all our engine parts in. If there's one thing that you can do, mainly that does a lot of things, is just install a lot of engine parts. Now, if we want this to be a drift build, the way you sort of have to do it in the 360 is you have to have, the least handling, but a lot of engine power. So, installing most of the suspension stuff won't work, but the weight reduction will definitely help. Alright, and as well, from what I've heard, these rims add a nice bit of handling and a nice weight reduction. That is actually quite a large weight reduction, so we're gonna go with those despite kind of their meh looks. Now, these tire compounds all increase the handling too much, so we're not gonna go with those. And I think we might as well, want to remove, okay, we can't remove the spoiler. It's weird because the spoiler is kind of weighing this thing down, but at the same time, if we remove the spoiler, it's not a Dodge Daytona. And there it is, the Dodge Daytona with some pretty interesting rims. I was just looking around this car and I realized so many people will be mad at me. It's not the Dodge Daytona, it's the Dodge Charger Daytona. Which is interesting because as I'm looking around this, it's pretty much a regular Charger, except for that add-on they have at the front that makes it look really cool yet really interesting considering the rest of the body. Okay, the weird thing about this is I'm not initially excited, but it's the amount of curiosity that's making me kind of excited to see what has happened to this Dodge Daytona. Let's just see. Yeah, it kind of slides. It kind of does its thing. Oh, there we go. Oh, wow. This is actually, oh goodness gracious, this is much slighter than I thought it was. I'm just gonna try drifting around just a little bit without the e-brake, just to see if I've really kind of done it. They're not counting anything, but it does drift. You can see it sliding kind of. Oh gosh, now it's actually kind of sliding, but you can see that I can kind of consider it drifting because it's sliding, but a large part of it might need the e-brake, but it does slide. It does actually slide without me having to use the e-brake, which is pretty interesting. Alright, I'm just gonna try just doing some stuff. Well, that didn't work. This car handles surprisingly well for having no handling parts on it. What the heck just happened? But it handles really surprisingly well, considering that it has no handling parts of any kind. Just a whole bunch of engine parts. And honestly, I don't know why it handles so well, because the only thing I installed was brakes and that weight reduction. But I will say this, once it loses control, you've really lost control, because there's no controlling this thing after it's losing control, because you can't control it. The loss of handling parts, while it does seem interesting that it handles surprisingly well, considering it has no handling parts whatsoever. You have to remember that it has no handling parts, and so when it starts to lose control or you have too much speed, it's a goner. Yet when you try to do any drifts intentionally, it doesn't quite end up so well. Okay, I just knocked that guy off the road. I'm not intentionally getting all of these skill points, they're just happening because I'm losing control, yet it ends up counting in a chain as the one you're seeing right now. I've lost complete control, but it's counted that as an ultimate drift. Overall, this this one was kind of disappointing. I mean, it goes fast. I mean, it goes really fast, but I mean, and it kind of drifts, but most of the drifting that it's doing is not me actually trying to drift. It's just the car losing control in general. Like, I'm sure if I was trying to drift, you would know, because while I would still suck at it, you would at least acknowledge that I'm at least doing something to make this car lose control. Most of this video has just been this car sliding around because it's been losing control. Most of this video has not been actually me trying to drift. Now let's try it with some e-drifts. Maybe if we try to drift, we could possibly get something good out of it. And just as I was doing my first e-drift there, it just completely failed. Okay, well, this car actually drifts considerably well when you start actually using everything for the drifts. But other than that, it doesn't really drift. I don't know if I can really consider this a drift car or not, because it just loses control mainly. That's all it does. So let's try using our e-brake here. Let's try seeing how it goes. Okay, I was even trying to apply the brakes there, and nothing stopped this thing. That was absolutely terrible. What happened? It almost feels like this car drifts whenever it wants to. It's like, right now, I'm pushing the e-brake. I was literally pushing the e-brake throughout that whole turn, and it doesn't quite feel like drifting, but it did it that time. So overall, this car didn't exactly turn out the way I wanted it to, but I mean, it wasn't all that bad. Where is it going? I literally tried everything to stop it there, and there is this. Could it not get over this curb? It hit the curb. This game really is buggy sometimes. But I think I'm gonna leave this video here, because honestly, this car was a bit of a disappointment, to be honest. But it was at least worth a shot, and I mean, it looks cool. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe to become a crafting lord. This is Crafting Lord 21, and I will see you in the next video.